evening and welcome to another episode of Talk That Get Results. I'm Reverend Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis, or give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that when you get in the show, you're well organized and you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. Your voice in the community, Talk That Get Results. And you can also follow this program on our platforms on YouTube. Type in YouTube Vaughan Radio and click subscribe. Also, you can go to Facebook and join us on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. Again, thank you all very much. Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to the entire listening and viewing audiences. Webbo, I would just like to take this opportunity to say a Happy New Year to all the people who are within the sound of my voice at this point in time. And in particular, there's some chaps who I met today. They're at rural lining spots. So I would just like to say a good evening to those guys. And of course, I can never leave out my cousin Simric there in St. Kitts and my special niece, Merle, there in St. Kitts as well. There are some people who are in the USVI, and I hope that they're doing well, because I understand they have some challenges there outside of COVID. I understand Legionnaires' disease has shown up there, and so they have extra, issues to deal with there. So I would just like to let them know that they're in my prayers, especially Anne and Pam, and good night to everyone. I hope we have a discussion tonight that everyone could benefit from.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my colleagues, Dr. Bartlett and Conrad Nile-Liberd. Good evening to those who are listening and viewing this edition of Let's Talk at this time. Let me also offer a very Happy New Year to all those who are listening and viewing. I think this is the first time I've been back here since the year started. I want to take this opportunity to all those who are listening and viewing that we are indeed delighted to be here once again. I want to take this opportunity, Webber, to offer words of condolences to quite a number of families. I think the last time we were here, we would have seen quite a number of families who would have been in the mourning column. I want to say to the Hull family, the Lawrence family, and the Forbes family there in the Hamilton area, and offer them my condolences, to the Clark and the Jeffers family there in Ramsbury, to the Hennis family in Stony Grove, and to the Wilkes and Bergen family that I've just learned just today the loss of their loved one. I believe, Webbo, that all of these families would have started the year with the loss of their dear loved ones, and I certainly want to take this opportunity, using this rostrum, to offer my deep and sincere condolences to all of them. To those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, certainly want to wish them a wonderful evening, and I hope that they are having a wonderful time. To those who are in our various hospitals here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and to those who are seeking medical attention further afield, certainly hope that they would be touched by the Creator, and with certainly with the help and assistance of the medical professionals, that they would be up and about very quickly. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I am certainly looking forward to the discussion tonight.
Conrad Naya-Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my colleagues around the table. Good evening to everyone tuned to this program worldwide. Webbo, once again, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and you know how much I like to discuss the issues affecting the people. Webbo, it's the number one agenda right now on the streets and everywhere else here in our little island. And so as the conversation goes on, we hope that we can have some solutions to the various challenges we are facing today. And so, Webbo, I must say thank you very much for having me once again.
Okay, what we got?
Webbo, if you would allow me, I just wanted to deal with one or two brief housekeeping matters, I would call them. Over the last few weeks, Webbo, I have noticed that some very mischievous persons have been seeking to create some fake profile of my person, Spencer Brand, or Honorable Spencer Brand, on social media. And they seem to have been sending around these very nefarious messages to individuals in all kind of hours at the night, you know. I just wanted to use this platform and this rostrum of One Radio to say to those persons who seem as though that they have a lot of extra time on their hand to kindly refrain from trying to soil and damage people's name and people's reputation and people's integrity. I think it was just last week I heard Minister Evelyn on the On The Mark show spoke about a similar occurrence. They are doing it on Facebook, they are doing it on Instagram, and they are trying to send out all of these messages to persons, very unsavory messages. I have also been, some information was also shared with me that I am also a representative of the United Nations to fund certain projects and certain initiatives and so on. I just want to say to our people that I would hope that they would cease and desist from such mischief and trying to tarnish people's name and people's integrity. I would say to them that I am certain that they would not want anyone to do that to them, and I would hope that they would cease and desist from that. I am appealing, I am making this appeal because I know that One Radio is a global, have global reach, and I'm certain that those who are engaged in this would be hearing me. I would have put out a note on Facebook late last month speaking about this, hoping that persons would cease and desist from such activity. But I thought that tonight I would use this platform to make this appeal, to encourage persons, for whatever the ulterior motives are, that they would cease and desist from such actions. The other thing that I want to, like I said, a few housekeeping matters, Webbo. I just wanted to advise the good folks of St. Paul's that I'll be having my one-on-one tomorrow. I did not get a chance to send out the community calendar, but I wanted to advise the good folks of St. Paul that I will be available for my one-on-one tomorrow afternoon at my constituency office from 2:30 until 5:30 p.m. Webbo, those are two of, like I said, two bits of housekeeping matters that I wanted to put on the table.
Where is your constituency office, Honorable Spencer?
It's located on Law Government Road in the Key Operation Complex. Key Complex, not the Key Complex, the Springgates Complex, sorry. Unit number 1.
Okay. Well, what of concern to me as I read the Weekly Observer, and this is probably a little outside of our kind of ball play right now. Of course, it's the Commonwealth, not the Commonwealth, the visit of the British High Commissioner to the Federation. and of course, seeking to engage our little nation in more activity as it relates to the Commonwealth and so forth. Quite interesting, I would think, because we've been here for so long, actually, and sometimes we even forget that we are part of the Commonwealth. But it was good to see that they have reminded us, and I suppose even themselves, now that Barbados have kind of lessened their significance and importance in their everyday political life. I think it is necessary on their part, and the fact that they are out of Europe, it is necessary to extend and to revive the connection with the Commonwealth countries. I wonder sometimes why some of the Commonwealth countries are so favorable to Britain than others, really and truly. I am not really a guy who pro these kind of engagement at this point in time of our history, to be quite honest with you. But to me, it is a matter of concern. It is an issue that we can discuss as we see how global trend is unfolding around us in terms of trade and so forth. It is no mistake that we have become more important since England has removed themselves from Europe. But it kind of begs the question, why is it the relationship with some Commonwealth country, the bigger ones, Australia, South Africa, Canada, New Zealand, are so different to the other countries that make up the Commonwealth, which are basically poorer countries, the poorer countries of Africa, the poorer countries of the Caribbean. And of course, this is something of great concern, especially to we in the Caribbean, as we see Barbados have just exit that state of affair, of that relationship. And so I think it is worthy that I make mention of that. I don't know if any of my panel, any member of the panel would have any concern on that matter that I put on the table.
Naya, I think what we are noticing is that if you would recognize that in the 70s, 80s, 90s, perhaps, a lot of these Commonwealth countries in this hemisphere would have been receiving a lot more concessionary assistance, concessionary loans, for example, even more grant funding. And what we are finding is that the more influential Commonwealth countries are now saying that these countries are developed countries and they don't necessarily need the kind of grants and concessionary financing. It therefore means then, Naya, that the importance of these quote-unquote developing countries to some of the larger Commonwealth countries, the importance have somewhat waned. And just as Barbados have done, I'm now hearing Jamaica is thinking going in the same direction. The big elephant in the room, Naya, is China. And whether we like it or not, it appears to me that China have taken a very aggressive approach to globalization, in that they are willing to open their ATM card, so to speak, to try and woo developing countries. I would not be surprised, Naya, if in very short order we see a much closer relationship developing between a country like Barbados and China. I have absolutely no issue with it, because every country must decide for themselves what is in the best interest of their people. Like I said, Jamaica is considering such a move to remove the head of state, the Queen as the head of state, and become a republic. And like I said, China is the elephant in the room, because China is prepared to do what a lot of these other countries aren't prepared to do. And China have basically taken a very aggressive approach to globalization, not only to develop the kind of partnership with other countries, but also to make sure that they develop the kind of friendship when the need arises for others to make certain decisions.
Well, I am not necessarily as concerned, maybe, as Naya is, as it relates to the outreach by any of the European countries. It is a tradition that at least we always looking to somebody for some grant, and we just misuse, what the resources that we have, and so we make ourselves vulnerable. And the vulnerability that is being displayed, and I know Mr. Brand made reference to Barbados and other places, what we really see is not necessarily China is not introducing anything new. This concept is nothing new. So what we're really having right now is a recolonization of our people. And that is because we have opened ourselves. We have not used the resources that we have had wisely. And so now it means that we are almost at the mercy of anybody else who comes and has money, whether they're coming from China, Russia, or wherever they're coming from. And we're seeing the influences within, not only just in Africa, and they have many more resources than we do. But right here in the Caribbean, and our people have challenges, and I think our politicians in particular are exposing us even more so, because when China gives a loan, China expects it to be paid back. And so a lot of us, when we get into financial difficulties and cannot repay, it means that we are mortgaging our very own countries, and we have to be careful about that. Right now, I mean, some people don't want to do business with China because China is in breach for a lot of times of basic human rights. But there are some of us who turn a blind eye to that, and China is coming with an extra dough, and we decide we're going to welcome them. But we must recognize that when they're coming, they're not coming because they love us. It is just another group coming to exploit us. And we open, and that is the unfortunate thing, in that we open ourselves to it. I'm hoping that our politicians around here would start thinking deep and not just sell out the countries, because that's basically what they're doing. And grant funding is available for a lot of things as it relates to pushing the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals in poor countries. But a lot of us don't make ourselves, or we don't avail ourselves of the opportunities that are created. And so we leave our populations vulnerable. And I'm hoping, like I said, that our politicians would start thinking not of themselves, but about the countries that they represent.
I'm so happy that you're here tonight, Mr. Brand, because last week I asked a question and I don't think I got a sound answer, because just the other day, and I think this probably falls within your domain of your job. Just the other day, I took a drive around the island, and I realized most of the windmills, not the windmills, the wind turbines to produce electricity are down. And it makes me start wondering, well, what is going on here? Because those were up spinning for years. What is the real situation with that? To me, that is an issue, and I don't want to drift off with some foolish ideology. But what I know is that those are important instruments to any country in the 21st century, because we are thinking about green energy, we are thinking about, and I find to see them lying on the ground as if no one owns them, or they probably was never connected to the grid, is a question and a certainty I would really like to get to, whether or not they were ever connected to the grid. I know they were brought by, put in place by the NRP government. What is exactly going on with the wind turbine? These are huge investments. These are huge instruments of very important, serious importance, especially in this 21st century. And they're down. What's happening in Nevis? As I said, when I traveled through Western America, I drive a lot through those places, the desert of California and them places, and there's endless of those kinds of stuff. But I see my little island where there was some spinning, I'm not sure of the numbers, about 6 of them, and most of them are now lying on the ground. What is going on? We'll be happy if you can share some, shed some light on that particular matter.
What I would say, Naya, is you asked the question if they were connected to the grid.
Yes.
Yes, there was an agreement between, I think the company name was Winwatt and the NIA, and they were producing a certain amount of energy to the grid. There appears to be some significant mechanical and maintenance issues. That is why you would often see quite a number of them on the ground from time to time. They appear to be having some challenges as it regards to some mechanical issues and maintenance issues.
Okay.
Can I jump in here?
Of course.
I hear what Naya is saying, but what I would like to add to that, in the form of a question, I should, because that is the format.
Yes.
I would like to find out from Mr. Brand, what is the policy as it relates to renewable energy on Nevis? Because that's a private company. That Winwatt is a private company, from what I understand. It might have been brought here when NRP was in power. But notwithstanding, what are we doing to make sure that in 2030, because I think that 2030 is a lot of things culminate in 2030 as it relates to the Sustainable Development Goals, and where are we as it relates to renewable energy? Let me just leave it there and wait for Mr. Brand's response.
Both Dr. Bartlett and Naya, let me answer both of you. Renewable energy is still a top priority for the Nevis Island administration. What I would say to you is that over the last year or so, we have been having some very intense and very in-depth discussion with a developer on the geothermal. I would just leave it at that. The government basically is still pursuing renewable energy, because we are of the opinion that once we achieve the full potential of our renewable energy capacity, we are certain that the cost of living will see a significant change in the cost of living. Energy is expected to be cheaper, and we believe that the energy that we know is available based on the science and the data that I have seen, we believe that we'll be able to transform our economy. So to answer both of your questions, the renewable energy for the island of Nevis is still a high priority for the island of Nevis.
Well, if I may, Webbo, if this is a top priority, I really don't want to see what is to happen or what the outcome would be for things that are not top priorities. Because if this is a top priority and we can't even hear what the policy is, I mean, renewable energy, you said geothermal, and we know that that is something that it comes up every election cycle. So we're at the point now that we probably, well, I for one don't really want to engage too much in that. But as it relates to the other forms of renewable energy, where are we? Naya brought up the issue of, or at least the status of the Windward farm, where they were producing energy which was going into the grid, and obviously most of the turbines are down now. We wouldn't be really getting a contribution from there. My thing is as it relates to the policy, because you can't just bring up geothermal every time there's an election to be had and then just leave it and then tell me a couple of weeks before again that you're in intense discussion, because that is not advancing our quest to get to the point where we are totally dependent on renewable energy, clean energy. That is the focus nowadays, and there's money out there, I know, so that we can at least be able to fund some little project in renewable energy, man. How about putting some solar energy in the schools, put them in government places? I mean, on the houses that you're building now, why I don't understand why we have not integrated anything up to this point, as it relates to renewable energy, and we're just always just talking about it. And I think that most divisions, if I may be that presumptuous to speak on behalf of most divisions, I think we have had enough of the promises as it relates to geothermal, because you keep promising, and we see it every election cycle, and nothing is being delivered. Why can't we try other options, maybe, that might be less or requires less in terms of the capital input, and get on with it? I'm not even hearing that I'm not hearing from the government that there's a policy in place that by 2030 we would have at least, and we must define what our goals are. By 2030, even if we didn't get to 100% renewable energy, that at least we would be 50% there. What is the policy? Are we going to integrate it is getting frustrating, and in the meantime electricity is getting more expensive, and every day you hear the cries of divisions, and that is not good enough for these intense discussions that always just happen to have to be had just around election time. It's about time you started to deliver.
Not just alternative energy. The question is, are we turned on by the whole concept? It's all right to say it's uppermost in the minds of the government, and I wouldn't doubt that really. But the question is, like, where do we start? Where do we condition the minds of the people that we need to? Even the youths need to start thinking in that direction. I mean, I sometimes feel like these are global issues that are not really taken on in a serious way here in Nevis. Issues like alternative energy, even recycling, these are issues that impact the environment. And I think sometimes that we are not generally turned on. I mean, some adults are, but sometimes, these kind of awareness must be brought to the children at a certain age, coming up, and so forth. Make it a part of our life, of our cycle, where we are thinking that, yes, alternative energy, green energy, environmental concern is our duty and responsibility. Not just now, even 3 budgets gone by, I always wonder, how come I'm not hearing anything about like recycling, I think it's something we got to bring front and center, implant it in the consciousness of the youths in school. It's coming up. We ourselves have to realize that, I mean, if we look at our environment, if you look at the whole problems we're having, even with the landfill, we probably need to incorporate this within the mind frame of of ourselves, that there is not just these ideas are front and center globally, and we know that we are so much affected by even the changes in the weather and so forth, environmental concern, and of course it starts with us here in Nevis. And I think we need to just raise the consciousness, because I really truly don't hear much about it. It's election time, so we're hearing little bits of this and that. But when the dust is settled, I think everything gone back as normal. Engine being bought, the kids don't really know about what is happening globally. So I'm just asking that in some way or the other, those who seek to be representing the people, that these serious issues should, be planted in the minds of the people, and take serious steps to really make these things reality, really. Otherwise, I mean, yes, of course, we are struggling with paying electricity. We are.
Naya, I would share with you, you spoke about recycling. It was just, I think it was last week, Thursday or Friday. We would have had a regional OACS environment ministers meeting, Zoom meeting, and we looked at basically two main issues, two main concerns that we are facing throughout the region: the issue of plastic and the issue of these used vehicles that are coming into the Caribbean. I am aware, and we are all aware, that St. Kitts and Nevis have basically signaled that they are moving towards banning plastic. When that will happen, I believe that would be a federal proclamation. And we have also looked at the issue of these second-hand vehicles that are coming into the Caribbean from Japan and other places. We are seeing that while the governments are charging, I think it's $5,000 fee on these vehicles, it does not necessarily offer much protection to the environment. It is an issue that I know that Antigua would have expressed a strong position on. Minister Evelyn at the federal level was also on that meeting. So throughout the region, we are seeking to ensure that we offer some alternative to these used vehicles. And one of the initiatives that we are considering, and I would think that it would be an OACS regional move towards, is to try and see if we can ensure that we encourage our people to use more electric vehicles. We all know that the price of these vehicles are at such a level, and we feel that for the region to take on this initiative very seriously, the governments of the region would have to make sure that while the upfront cost of these vehicles is what it is, then the government would have to ensure that the duties, the taxes on these vehicles, in my mind, are next to zero. If we are serious about transforming our environment, and if we are serious about encouraging our people to go into that direction, the governments of the region would have to develop that initiative to make sure that once we take that decision and advertise to the region that this is the way in which we want to go, government would have to say, well, the duties, the tax, in my mind, should be zero in order to encourage it.
That's what we call a long way. It sounds like it take a long time to get to that point, I believe. But one question, you spoke about second-hand vehicles coming from Japan. Are you concerned about the pollution that comes from them, in terms of what comes from the exhaust, or
what we are seeing,
too much metal in the end.
Now, what we are seeing, you buy the second-hand vehicle, and persons have the right to equip themselves with some form of transportation to get to their work and conduct their business and so on and so forth. The lifespan of these vehicles is extremely short, and we are also recognizing that it is somewhat often difficult to procure parts and so on to keep these vehicles on the road.
Okay, Mr. Brand, could you just let me invite this caller in? Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening. I have a question. So good evening to the whole panel and everybody listening. I have a question for Mr. Brand.
Good evening.
What is the effect of a used vehicle coming in from Japan on the environment that the new vehicle doesn't have?
Well, the carbon emission from the more modern vehicles is a lot less.
Say again?
The carbon emission from the more modern vehicles are a lot less. And the carbon emission are what is it that is affecting the environment.
I don't understand that. I mean,
Caller.
So, could I finish what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay.
Every vehicle start off being new, and at some point it's going to get old. And I don't know that we could blame used vehicles for the carbon emission. I mean, I would really go I would really think going towards moving away from fossil fuels completely and going green. I mean, that's my view. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Bang.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the caller that the carbon emission from a vehicle that is 10 years old to versus one that is built in 2019, 2020 is significantly different.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good night.
Good night.
Hello?
Good night. Good night.
You're on the air. Could you go
I
ahead?
need to, I want to say my condolences to the Daly family coming from Jamaica.
Okay.
Peru.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Go. Who is it, Doctor?
Well,
Yes.
I
Go
don't know.
ahead.
Blan was finishing up, I think.
Yes. Go ahead.
Now I'm getting a little, not necessarily confused, but I'm trying to follow the line of argument here. Naya, I think, is the one who had the initial concern as it related to recycling, right?
Yes.
Was that it?
Yes.
And I think we kind of lost our way a little bit when Bran started to talk about the carbon emissions. Because from what I understand, the imposition of the $5,000 on poor people on a used car because they can't afford a new car, I don't understand how you could really rationalize that. And so when he started to answer that way, it perked my interest. But from what I understand, the issue was about the final disposal of those vehicles. Once they died, you wanted to be concerned about, are you going to recycle them? Wasn't there a scrap metal program to take care of that? Because when we start talking about carbon emissions, what we produce here is negligible compared to other places. And of course, there are mechanism in place that we can offset our carbon emissions. We can plant more trees and all that kind of thing. There are different initiatives to also deal with that part of it. So to address, though, the issue of what happens when you have these cars, because I don't understand how you want to discriminate against a poor man who can only afford to buy a 10-year-old car, as opposed to a man working for government and have 3 jobs and have 3 streams of income and can afford to change a car every 3 months or every 3 years. Sorry. I mean, and so he gets away from paying that. But if he brings a car in, at some point the car is going to reach a landfill, whether it is 20 years from now. Because I know I had a vehicle, my first vehicle was in 1992, and it is still on the road. you know. So is it fair to penalize poor people just because they're trying to get a mode of, or is it that we are saying we are more concerned about the carbon emissions, and so we need to start now focusing on initiatives to get people to move towards the purchasing of cars which are, you know, carbon neutral. So we are thinking about electric cars and all that, and are we setting up the framework for that? Are we putting the infrastructure in place so that next year I decide I want to bring in, because if I'm the first one to bring it in, and how am I going to, you know, be able to maintain keeping my vehicle up, you know, giving
it's a long way.
Right, so we have to have the infrastructure in place first. But in the meantime, I think maybe, you know, the concern maybe, well, for me, I would like to hear what is in place for the final resting place for these cars, because like I said, I know that at some point we had a scrap metal program. Is that still ongoing? Is that something we have to revive? I don't know. What is the status as it relates to that?
The scrap metal program initiative had moved to Sinkits, and I believe that they should have come back to Nevis some time ago. I am honestly not certain as to why they haven't. But I am happy, Dr. Bartlett, that you were able to go full circle and recognize that I am by no way or by no means trying to discriminate or disenfranchise anyone in terms of owning a vehicle. I indicated that there was this concept and this move towards trying to arrest that situation throughout the region. It is not a problem indigenous to Nevis or St. Kitts and Nevis. It's a regional problem that I feel that if the Caribbean region is to seriously move as one green space, one green region, then I believe that we need to begin to, instead of our individual islands, carve out our own individual initiative, but look at it as at a much regional front, so to speak, in trying to arrest the problem. So it is something that I know may take some time, but I think that for you to solve a problem, you must recognize what the problems are. And I think that initially, once you recognize what those problems are, then you work towards solving them.
Well, from what I've been hearing, obviously we are expecting, as time goes by, a lot of old vehicles, because these little vehicles they're bringing in, of course, the lifespan is very short. But yes, there was a metal program in a company came to Nevis, and I understand they took all the metal they could have free. At that time, I went to the metal deposit, and I was asked not to remove any, and I was not able to even buy metal from the metal deposit over there. That, to me, was very suppressive to the people who goes to that area. And I don't like to say landfill or dump. I say the metal deposit because it's where, many islands have them. In England, I live there, to run my shop, so I know what it's like going to the metal deposit. I know what it's like to find important things and to recycle a lot of the things that is there, because that's where recycling begins. Entrepreneurship begins there sometimes. So I was very hurt when I went there, and I was told, you can't take any metal. Can I buy something? No, you can't buy nothing. It's all for the white man. But the white man is taking everything free. You ain't pay no duty, export duty, and nothing. That program there need to be looked at in a very serious way again, and I don't expect he's going to come back and take all the metal free again, we got an administration that need to be paid. These people, honestly, those who are in that business are never they are the wealthiest group is people who deal in scrap metal. I can tell you that, and so if they come back, I expect a different arrangement and a more transparent arrangement too, because at the time the manager of the landfill came by and said that there's a profit sharing arrangement. We never heard anything about that in the end. The company moved to St. Kitts. I'm not saying, well, we should have here some things are not for the public, but to me, that arrangement that they had in place was not a good one. It was not a good one for the locals who go there sometimes, and sometimes I hear that, sometimes we probably need to open up and take advice sometimes, because I know, as I say, I often go to the metal deposit when I used to live in England. And not only that, on Sundays, the general landfill, you can actually go and buy what you want, and you can make your own garbage deposit there, so the landfill is a live business everywhere, but here it's not really run like that. It is, sometimes you can go and you can't take, sometimes you even offer to buy, say, we are not selling, and I protest against it, and then some people there stop talking to me and so forth, and I don't know why. And I am just saying, look, this is not how I know this thing's supposed to run. I come here as a local, I see a nice piece of stainless steel there, I would like to buy it. No, you can't buy it. But I mean, I can't buy it. No, it belongs to some company they have arrangement with that come to Nevis to take all the metal, and they're taking them free because they're taking everything. That doesn't sound right to me. That doesn't sound right to me. So I hope it can be revisited if they are coming back. And so that suppression of entrepreneurship at times, and even ideas of recycling, can be stopped, can be brought to a halt. The landfill, what we call it, the metal deposit, it's a place of serious enterprise at times in many different places I've been to. The old cars are there, mechanics are even waiting there for people to come to collect the parts. We're maybe not to that point as yet, but I think a well-organized landfill and metal deposit would have such features.
So you're proposing a new landfill?
Well, there must be a new landfill, but I don't know where, because the mountain is a mountain they have out there now, and something have to be done with it. I mean, it is a current problem. It's a major situation happening there. Even though I've been here in Nevis is very clean. Nevis is clean. Nevis is beautiful. Yes, and the collection of the garbage is taking place and so forth. But where they are deposited, there is a situation there that needs serious attention. It's not very far from the Mundo track. I think it does need serious attention.
This is Thought That Get Results. Conrad Naya Liber, the Honorable Spencer Brand, Dr. Patricia Balt. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Be back after this.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
Back on this episode of Talk That Get Results with Dr. Patricia Bartlett, the Honorable Spencer Brand, Conrad Nye Liber. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Now, I came in with a plan to do something. I was expecting Edric. He couldn't make it tonight because I wanted him to comment on what I'm going to do right now. But still, Edric, if you're listening, and I know you are, and good night to Ted Hobson. Edric, I still would want you to comment on it, and I want the panel also, if they wish to do so, to comment on it, and maybe the public. Having done that, we can get back to maybe some of the issues that have been put on the table before. I made some notes myself concerning those. But what happens is that somebody sent me this about a few days ago, and I thought it interesting, and the first person who came to mind was Edric Stanley. I wanted him to make a comment on it. So I'm going to play it, and Edric, if you're listening, I'd still like you to comment on it. The in-house panel can comment on it, if you're in the public can, if you will, if you want to, and then we can move on from there. Now what it is anybody remember Irvin Isles?
Yes.
Anybody knows or learn or heard how great a singer he was?
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
The voice that he had?
Yes.
And I was speaking to one of my local artists here, and I asked him, what is it when a person can run the scale or make the high notes, and is it an octave? People like Aretha Franklin and them can do it. Well, I'm thinking to myself that this guy here, had he been still around, I certainly would have recommended that we knight him as one of our greatest voices. Listen to this. Okay, I know I got to apologize for the recording, right? But it was a long time ago. But the guy in the fife, you know who that was?
No.
David Freeman.
Okay.
And I don't know, the band might have been his as well. But as I said, I apologize for the recording, but I thought, you could hear the voice coming through. And the quality of his voice. It's too bad that we got some other recordings of him which is a little better, but I thought that I was sort of interested, and it brings another aspect to life on Nevis and the talents and so on that we had. So I just thought, again, I apologize for the recording. That's how I got it. We couldn't do anything better, but I just thought I'll put it in.
It is a good thing to have in the archives. Yes, the truth is, I don't think I ever heard anyone sing like that on Nevis. Really, it reminds me of long in 1960 something American Joe Berry and those kind of guys, you know.
Man, now I was telling my guy here that this guy can go with these fellas.
So,
I mean,
yeah, even the music, you know. But you can, even though you don't understand the lyrics, the voice stands out there. You can hear a guy with a quality voice. Certainly.
That was
a strong quality voice.
Yeah, you know the song, the twist. The twist, that was it.
Yeah.
And what I got was a little video, and it helps if you saw the video, because them fellas were doing the twist too.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what I'm saying.
Do you know what year this was recorded, Webbo?
No, I don't know the exact year, but you know, it had to be a long time ago, because Organized died quite a bit now. Yeah, an unfortunate incident. So it was.
He was a talented man.
Very
talented on his guitar and get up and just sing, you know.
And the fella could dress too.
I mean, he was a character.
Yes,
he was a Beavis character.
Yeah.
For me, Webbo, I think I picked up a line in the song "Everybody Rock and Roll."
Yes.
That for me was the line that kind of stood out, and based on the sweetness of the music, so to speak, the song itself, using that line, "Everybody rock and roll," is simply saying you are not to take life so seriously. Enjoy life with a little rock and roll here and there, and so on and so forth. So, for me, that line kind of stood out, and the kind of voice, the kind of husky, you know.
Well, in Twilight moment, Brian. Let me see if I got Edric. Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Good evening to everyone.
Yes.
Good evening.
Cynthia Morris, calling from Brown Hill. And I have a problem here, right? With a lit light in front of Dr. Bartlett's mother's house by Luther Williams. And I've heard all kind of complaints. I go in the office mostly once or twice. I talk to Sterling, I talk to all kind of people. And this is over 2 months now, and nobody wants to come and fix that light. Sterling was telling me that some bucket is down. I study electricity, people come across here, you know, they will pick up with the bucket. I even tell the fellows, then they say they would have put whatever on the list, and they come across here. And I really need a light to fix, because it's right in front of my father, and the place is in darkness. So, Mr. Brown, I don't know if it's on your ministry or what, would you please look into it for me? I thank you very much.
It's not, but I took a note of it. I will convey your concern, ma'am.
Yes, please, because the place is in darkness right here, and right in front of the gate, right down the window. I'm afraid. So please look into it for me. Thank you very much.
All right,
you all have a good evening.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, thank you. You know, I'm glad the lady called and mentioned that. You know why? Because I've been doing this thing for a long time now. And I don't know the particular case, but the lady is right. There are a lot of things like that. Right? And I hope they don't spite her. And I know why I say so. I could mention a particular instance as well, but I don't like to appear to be complaining or bawling, you know what I'm saying? So I just, take it. But I'm glad the lady said that, and I hope that they get her light fixed, because there was a particular instance. I won't tell you all who it is, but the person went into the office and spoke to them about a light. And you know what they told them? Fill out a form. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Well,
Yes. Yes, Cedric.
the well in Westerman came from the same era. He lived in St. Croix. He's still alive, but he's from Low Street. Just like Irving Ives. Mine, 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 Jesus is mine. Mine when I'm well. Mine when I'm buried. Mine, 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 Jesus is mine. Jesus is mine all the time. A marvelous voice.
You're not going to tell me you used to sing with those fellas too?
I think he used to sing in the choir.
That's the point you wanted to make?
No, well, not really. Just
okay. All right. So
on the artists, they're one of a kind. But the name I brought to the fore, the Welly Westerman, he's down at the hotel in St. Croix for many years. Great Tribune, the Buccaneer, St. Croix by the Sea, as the case might be. But him and also organized, they are two of a kind. A lot melodious voice. Great artist. Sorry about his demise, but he should have been around for you to interview him and to have him sing. Have him sing a song for all of us to hear. The talent. It is an unparalleled talent. Anyway, may God bless his soul.
all right, Edric, thanks much. And you know, of course, yes.
There are several topics that were put on the table this evening. We must understand that the Caribbean islands have some degree of sovereignty. And in that regard, we play cricket, we take from everybody. Play cricket, we take from everybody. Doesn't mean that they have to control us. So those who feel that we have to go down the pathway of taking from them and being obligated to them, we are at a new juncture in terms of time. And therefore, we could take from China and tell China to go, well, go to heaven. At the same time, we must understand our unique position as a Caribbean people. Every nation, in terms of global leaders, trying to woo the Caribbean onto their side. Currently, we have a problem with the USSR, Union of Soviet, well, Putin, trying to invade this other smaller country. And right now they're looking for allies, Western allies, who can support them. Putin went to China to get China's support, hoping that they would be able to push back on Biden's building up the troops around Western Europe to ensure that he does not invade the country. We hope that we here in the Caribbean don't side with those in the East simply because we are Western people. We believe in Western democracy. And as a result, we have to stay united. Webbo, I'll call back again.
Okay, all right, thank you. I think who it was that
You didn't get a comment from me on the
Okay, go on.
thing. All I wanted to say is that Webbo, I'm a politician now. So excuse me if I were to at least big up the bad people, because I know they've always, been noted as the people who excel in football. But the thing is, you have quite a few singers from Bath Village, you know, the guy Lenny who died, you have the Tampi them, yeah. So it's a talented little niche, right? You know, right there, you know, enclave right there, so right up the street from us, you know. Oh, Blackhat too, yeah, man. I wouldn't get into trouble. Blackhat, that is East covered. Okay. Yeah, so they have talent, and Irvin Ellis would have been in that era, you know, and I can remember Irvin Ellis being noted for his dressing as well, you know. Yes.
They had a guy named Pharaoh as well. He used to live in St. Kitts, but he's from Bath. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening, Webber. I was just about to give up. My station cutting in and out. Good evening to all the listeners at home and abroad. I want to send some condolences to Nurse Jane Skeet Maynard, who lives in Toronto, on the passing of her husband, Anthony Maynard, who is my brother. So to Jean and all her relatives, her children and grandchildren, to all of Maynard's other children and grandchildren, to all of my brothers and sisters and relatives in Nevis and in St. Kitts, may God give comfort. Now, in relation to the issue about the energy, isn't there a written policy on the energy? Isn't there a written energy policy? Can somebody answer?
I can answer, sorry.
I know in St. Kitts that there is one. and there is the OECS policy.
There is a federal and OECS policy.
So, well, isn't that available to everybody? Maybe you could give direction as to where people could access it. So when we are discussing, you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So how can they access it? Is it online?
I am not certain if it is online. I would honestly have to double check and see if it's on the government website, the NIA website. I am really not certain if it's on.
Would it be on the OECS one?
There would be something on the OECS website for sure, because I remember sometime last year I would have pulled down some information from there, but I'm not certain if the
updated.
No, I'm not certain if the one for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is on the federal government website.
All right, because as I was saying, you know, when we are discussing, good to have information. Maybe because of my job and training, you know, I don't like to hear vague discussions. All right then.
But caller,
hello.
You would agree that is what we do most of and prefer, right?
Yeah.
Because when we begin to do in-depth stuff, then people begin to get upset.
You know.
Right?
But that's like people, you know, a lot of time we hold some discussions and you wouldn't believe that some of the information is available online, you know. We have a lot of vague and people asking questions that have been answered already, or the answer is available.
Right, but I have found, caller, in my experience and, you know, being around and doing these stuff, that it is just for talk, and people are not really interested in the facts. And you know, sometimes a person might say something like, for instance, sometimes you'll hear them say, we need a law for this, or we need a law to control, and then when you find that there is one already, we quickly drop that and go on to something else.
It's true, and while you're at it, maybe people should know who are listening that you can access the laws online. Any law you want. Like I had somebody read the severance pay, the qualifications, because people make statements. Oh, I supposed to get severance pay. There are certain conditions on which you get it. You know, and then you have this long discussion, and you know, I always say to you know that the people who are qualified and think in certain areas and fields, when there's a discussion, they should intervene and help to clarify the situation.
Right, but Anyway, so we got to keep trying, right?
All right then.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Well, can I just make a comment as it relates to that?
Yes.
I think we really wanted to have, and when I asked the question, I wasn't trying to find out what the policy was in the region. And I know that Mr. Brand had suggested that we must move and the approach must be a regional approach. But we are in Nevis. So I asked the question specifically to Nevis. What is the policy as it relates to renewable energy in Nevis? Because we see everybody has to pursue their own interests. In St. Kitts, they have a policy that they're moving towards achieving renewable energy, sustainable levels of renewable energy. And they've outlined that, and I think I would have seen, there was some mention of it in the budget. So they were, so they are targets. So I was merely asking Mr. Brand, who sits in government now, what is the policy as it relates to Nevis and renewable energy? Because the discussion started about the wind farm and its contribution to the grid here on Nevis. So for me, the answer that Mr. Brand gave was not sufficient for me to accept it, as a good position for us to be in when he says that there's a Caribbean approach, because everybody is pursuing renewable energy at different levels. In Barbados, they're telling you that, and they outline when they propose that they would have 100% renewable energy. Everyone has to pursue their own interests, and then when we put them together, like we want to collect things, then we say we have a regional approach to it. But we can't just be passing the buck or ignoring the fact that we have our work to do here. In Nevis, we are to get on it. We need to start pursuing in a serious way renewable energy.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah. Good evening, Webbo, and your panel here. Webbo, the lady who spoke about the electric light in front of her father's place, I'm so glad that she came under the ear and she spoke about that. Because that kind of behavior there, that kind of what you call negligent behavior, it is very contagious in both islands. Well, down here, not necessarily with the electrical thing, but there are other things that people who are working for the ministry or the government, they're very negligent in their duty. Our problem down here, which we spoke about today on another program, is people, nasty people, walking up and down the place and messing up the place unnecessarily when there are garbage bins that they can throw the garbage in, and also cleaning of the government drains. No drain supposed to have no mass green like the mountain, because every Friday, every weekend, they make sure they find themselves to the bank to collect the money that the check don't get any mass on it. But they wouldn't do the government work. And we are calling on those people who are responsible to see that these people do their work. They must get up and go out and see that the people do their work. And then we would not have to come on the radio and complain about things that's supposed to be done and they're not doing it and they're collecting money for it. That is wrong, Webbo. Very much wrong. And those in authority come down below the ministers of government. They are the ones who are procrastinating with doing their work. Thank you very much, Webbo, and your team.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I tell the truth, I was really hoping that, that we could have been farther on in terms of persons and their responsibilities, getting certain things done. I mean, minus the politicians, because they, get the share flack, and to some degree they're to blame as well. But I was figuring that we as a people and having certain responsibilities will basically execute them. And sometimes, just to find that people calling in and, complaining about these things, it tells us who we are as a society. You know what I'm saying? Mark you, it has people in these areas, in every area, that perform well, do their job, go over and beyond. But as you're getting from the public, too many of us, it's too top, and not serving us. And maybe we're ourselves are guilty of. And maybe what we're saying is that as a people, maybe we need to do better. And as I said, and the gentleman said, I'm glad that the lady mentioned it. And I hope that Mr. Brand do writing that get results. And they go and they fix it, because other people are doing the same thing. And if they complain, they do something and spite them. And sometimes, you know, especially if and that is not fair, and that is not right. So, Mr. Brown, I hope you will do writing that get results. And I hope the lady can call us and tell us, okay, so that they could take care of it. And then that other people don't have to come to this to get that kind of result. So, Mr. Brown, you doing writing that get result? Will get results?
Well,
Webbo.
yes, Webbo. we will get the results.
Webbo.
Yes.
Sometimes the government get the blame, and the head of the ministry get the blame, but sometimes it's the people below. Sometimes being very spiteful. I mean, I've been having an experience, and I've spoke to a minister of government, and the minister of government have spoken to the people, and he met me and asked me, them people ain't come yet. You know, and then about 4 months after, I tell him no, and then he asked me again, you know, and it is deep stuff, Webbo, in a sense, you know, trying to get government people out to do their job for 3 years. I don't know what is going on. I kind of give up. But one of these days, I'm going to probably come here and just blow it, you know? Honestly.
You see, but that's...
Because I've spoken to the government minister.
But that's what I don't want, Naya, to tell the truth.
Well, that's what I'm telling
and that's
you.
Why
I am being so discreet with this matter. You see me here, I feel all kind of thing when you're
okay, let me get this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Mr. Webber, good night again. I'm glad you're talking about it, because I really need that light fixed. As I speak, the whole place is in darkness. I'm crossed about my father. He's 93 years. Anything I don't want to wait around, put my foot. You understand?
Where your name is again?
My name is
let me see if I could do some writing that get result.
My name is Cynthia Morris. Brown Hill. I'm right here by Luther Williams. He's 93 years. And I hear that to look at him. And if anything I have to run, I'm running in darkness. I don't know where to put my foot. You think I'm not here talk to them about the light there?
And then, yeah, I got you. Walk with me. Cynthia, walk with me.
Yes, I'm walking with you.
Mr. Brand said he's doing writing that will get result. So I want for you to call me and let me know if you did get some result, because I feel your hurt.
Yeah, I'm really upset with you, because I'm not sure that 2 months now, and then tell me that the bucket, Stalin said that the bucket is not up. I see the people and I called the boy Prospect, I was at school, and I told them about it, just if you name, and they listened. They said they don't know anything about it, the bucket up. And then we're doing something in the visit. And up to now, tonight is dark night, near fall.
Okay, so Cynthia, here it is. Now, you see, you made your case, right?
Yes.
And then you know, after that, you're going to have my back. Because work with me, because I allow you to do that.
Yes.
I don't feel the pressure, but I'm accustomed to that, okay? But the most important thing is we'll get you sorted out, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Yes, okay, you too. Bye.
Yes. Okay. You see? That is the thing that people want settled.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People want to feel safe. You know what I'm saying? There's no point announcing, oh, we got this great program and everybody is staying and stuff like that. But when the harsh reality is, this is what it is.
And it make no sense I asking if there is a light change in policy neither. And that's the thing.
Right.
People way down on the train dealing with what that they're feeling with, you know? People is you know, sometimes I ain't on no internet to look on this and that. Some people don't even know it's the internet, you get me? They're dealing with what they're feeling.
Yes. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good night.
Good evening. Could you turn your radio down and talk with us?
Up by Mosha Village too.
Up by who?
Mosha Village.
That's in Brown Hill too?
Yes.
Maybe
She's up at school.
do me a favor, you call him tomorrow night.
Monstrat Village.
Okay.
Montserrat Village. You write that down too, Mr. Brand?
Yes, I
You're doing a lot of writing tonight. Those are the real things, you see. And I don't mind they take it out on me, but I can feel people's pain, right? And you know, I don't normally let people encourage this, but because I know that these things are happening, and you do one or two of these examples, hopefully it might get some results. So that's why I did it. Okay, what else we got?
And you know, but that makes me also think about the double salary too, you know, because honestly, man, what I've been experiencing when I hear government workers get double salary, saying them particular people they don't deserve. Well, none of them deserve as far as I check. No disrespect.
Well, that's a different
That's a
debate.
different issue.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Sorry, good evening, thank you for... Okay, could you please try and call back in so we can accommodate you? Yeah, there are a couple other things that I had noted earlier that I wanted to mention, but when we were speaking about the... Okay, I think the caller is back, so let me accommodate them. Good evening, thank you for holding. Could you turn your radio down, please?
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
And to the panel.
Good evening.
When I just mentioned about double salary, that who don't deserve double salary?
Oh, government workers.
Why government workers don't deserve double salary?
In many cases, in many areas, what you want a double salary for?
So where you working for?
I work for a single salary, man. Look, the island can't afford a double salary. Nevis Island
How
administration
you know that
can't
they
afford a
can't
double
afford
salary.
it when they pay?
You want us to talk about the
Why
inadequacies?
some
Do you
of the
want us to
people
talk
that
about the
are
inadequacies
struggling
here in
that
Nevis?
don't get
I don't even
double
have... Look, do you want us to speak about the inadequacies here in Nevis?
We talk about them, let me hear it.
Okay, man. If it simply means that we would have a toilet down at the bar stream, right? For you not to get double salary, that makes sense. If it simply means, okay, that our hospital would have been fully equipped or well equipped or equipped in just enough, okay, then that to me speak volumes when we speak about double salary. Now, I've been asking a government department to do something that they are authorized to do for 3 years now, and I've complained to the ministers. No one show up to now in a particular, and this is health.
Yeah, but you can't blame a department for fault everything and coming and saying that government workers don't deserve us at
No, you guys are inefficient in every respect and aspect, mate.
So you're trying to tell me that every
You
government
guys are inefficient in every respect. You guys just making the country more poor. That's what you guys are doing.
Only you guys. I'm not a politician.
Look, country simply can't afford it. The inadequacies that the people of Nevis are experiencing, the country.
Okay, why don't
Well, I hear what you say.
caller go? That's what happens if both of you speak at the same time. You won't hear. So caller, go ahead.
I was saying, right, I hear Pat saying something a couple months ago, this year, a couple of weeks ago, about the double salary that people getting, right?
Never.
But Pat was a part of the government system too. But she get double salary. What she do with it?
That question is for me.
Everybody got a bill to deal with. So if some people deserve the double salary because the meager money that they get in a month,
I think it's Nevis.
weekly,
Let him speak.
it kind of add up in a sense for the retirement they don't gone through for years. So you can't put everybody in the same boat. That government workers don't deserve a double salary. They people I know, they just stagnant and they don't do work really. But you can't put everybody in the same boat.
I don't understand why you want to pay for 1
Anyway,
month.
let me just leave the topic there alone, because some people they just have certain things because they could say.
I don't understand why you want to salary for 1 month. Where else in the world is happening?
Anyway, let me move on to another more important thing to me, you understand? I mean, I make a complaint to the same electric company down there, right? To the property that I have up here. For years, since 2001, I trying to tell them put another light down in the end zone, right? Because down there dark. It's a whole heap of run around and a whole heap of excuse again. Somebody might vex tonight, but I don't really care. Because I pay a light bill every month. And I just looking out for my own security. It's just one light I asked them to put down there. I didn't ask them to put 12 in. But yet still they will go up and down and put light all over the place. The road down there in a bad condition the same way. Now and then they patrol the road. But I pay land tax, I pay all kind of tax in this country, and I still can't get like one light I can't get down there.
Let me
So
see.
now I might be right with some people in the government system not pulling their weight, yes, but you can't paint everybody with a broad brush. Because I work for government and the same problem I don't have when I go to certain offices. I don't just try to kind of cool and hold my temper, because people that are way like you're begging them for the service and they're getting paid every week, they're getting paid every month.
About that.
And I asked him for the light for the longest while, you know, just one light. I even had a pole where I tell him I could have give them the pole, put in temporary until they're ready. They give me all kind of through about 110 current and they need to put this cross when not and so all kind of garbage they're telling me. Me not be patient for that there. That's all I have to say for now.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, Mr. Brand, you're writing still?
Yeah, I've been doing it.
This is not no joking
It's
matter.
not a joke. It's not a joke at all.
So you're writing.
I want to say, Webbo, that I think Naya would have used a very broad brush across the whole system, and I am a little uncomfortable, Webbo, to nail the entire system to the cross, so to speak. I believe that at times there are persons who go above and beyond the call of duty in the civil service, and oftentimes you may have one or two, a few bad apples in the system that shed a bad light on the entire system. It is at times unfortunate that from time to time we have to come here and insist that people do what they're supposed to do.
Okay, Mr. Brand, let me take this and hear what other folks have to say, and then we'll come back to you. Good evening, thank you. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding. Okay, that person, I don't think they were trying to get us. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Brand, but I think they're trying to come back. But I'll give you a chance, Mr. Brand. But let me take it. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
I'm trying to cut you off, but I got pressure on you. You want to fix it.
Hello. Hello.
I have a playground down here. You want to fix it. Motion Village.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
A playground.
And we have kids down here.
yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. I think we got that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening. Good evening to the panelists.
Good evening.
Stefan,
Yes.
I would like to ask you a question, please.
Sure.
You know you are fixing a bridge here in Hickman. Is it finished?
Hickman's
Yeah.
on the back way.
Yeah.
I haven't visited it in a while. I am really not certain if all of the works are completed.
Are they going to do the road?
No, our main focus at this time was to
Do
take
the
care of the
bridge?
bridge, because the bridge was showing some real signs of deterioration, and it was the engineers were saying that it was just a matter of time before it collapsed, so we would have sought to deal with the bridge itself, and then at some point, it was in a really bad state.
Okay, yeah. And about now the current, they're talking about current now. We've been asking right here in Hickman, just when you go on the same gut that you all do the bridge.
Yes.
We were asking for some light. Years now we're asking for light round the gut, and nobody seems to look to help us. Nobody look to help us, Mr. Brand.
Caller, could I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Who you all ask?
All kind of people.
Like who?
Well, we've been asked the gentleman who live up in Zion.
Okay.
And they were saying they have to do, when they came here to put the post them to put some posts to go around the bridge. We asked if they ain't going to put out any light. When I looked, they were doing the new lights that they're bringing out and the poles them, and nobody seems to come. I remember when I came down here first, I asked Uncle Van, because it's only my house was there and the road was dark. You know how far the light came to? By the community center.
Okay, so tell us where you are. Mr. Brand, you know where she is?
Yeah, I'm in Hickman, when you're going down by who goes Zion way.
So you are basically at the end of the road going along the back way?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so, Mr. Brand, you have that written down?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
I
So
think I have an idea.
he has that written down, okay?
Okay, thank
And
you.
don't be afraid to call us back and tell us if they do it.
Yes, okay.
Okay, have a nice evening.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Mr. Brand.
Yes, sir.
While you're writing, right? Write our light of the next day where you notice it real dark now when you come, right? For months now. And all it needs is a little adjusting. So write that down too. You write it down? No, I'm serious.
Right.
Because the truth is you'd realize it's very dark, right? That is why I said earlier I didn't want to say anything. You know what I'm saying? So write that. You have that written down?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good night, Brother Webber. Good night.
Yes.
And good night to your team there. Like now I'm the opportunity so I'm getting you to take them. Now, Brother Webber, I want to wish your program a happy new year. Wish you happy new year too. Because I don't think the car can take the new year. I think this is the second one or the first one.
Probably the third.
The third?
Yes.
Oh, okay then. That means I'm not busy. I was doing other things. Problem. Now, I just want to tell Mr. Grant that you are an elected politician. The people put an idea. And I'm talking about the Federation of Civic Media. And it's so glad to hear that the people need calling in and raising the concern. Because that's what we want. People to call in and raise the concern about whatever they got in the community or the constituency or whatever. Because they are electoral and they right that they're supposed to get some justice. So what do you think people need calling in and everything? And I want to ask the mayor, I used to think the same thing too now.
What?
That the double salary. Because I was a king cutter at them time. I work in the construction too. And I go to tell them I do construction and work in everything. And when government said double salary, sugar workers have, you know, I believe that sugar workers are the part of the government. FSMC, you know, I used to think that way. But when I think about the doctors, the nurses, and the security forces who work so hard in this country to keep down crime and all kind of things. In the year, I believe that it is something. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you are more again. You are some other people again. We never think that there are a lot of people in government. They only want to show up and do the work. And because they support different political parties and all them things, some of them support even the party wherein they're supporting them and they say, contaminate this thing. And maybe somebody in there, somebody in the ministry, who over them, they want to caution them or do whatever towards what they're doing because they're part of the government. And that's where government will be destroyed economically. So, you know, that we got to do what we got to do as one people and one federation. We got to work together as one. When I hear the people really starting in tonight, I feel good because sometimes you come up in the style. And sometimes I feel like, you know, people in need for just the other man in it. You know, we're the concern, man. You know, you're a good job. I wish you all the best.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Webbo?
Yeah, I promised Mr. Brando.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I think I may have finished.
Okay, no problem. Then go ahead, Dr. Bartlett.
Yes, I just wanted to lend some clarity to this to the statement that I would have made relative to the double salary that was paid in December. And I just want the caller to know that I had no gripe whatsoever with government workers getting a double salary, except that because of the environment we were coming up of, well, we're still pretty much in it anyway, because of the effects of COVID on the families. What I was proposing, not that people shouldn't get, but I was proposing a more equitable way of distributing the $7 million that came from St. Kitts to pay for the double salary. I was proposing that you just split it equally for everybody who would have been registered as an employee at the time when the pandemic hit. And that would have been like 6,000 plus individuals. And what I was proposing was for us to divide the $7 million amongst those people who are employees. So everybody would have gotten the same basic amount. And that was not restricting it to just the people who are working for government. It would have included other people who were in the private sector as well, who would have been laid off and were not getting a paycheck. So even the proposal that I would have made probably would have seen some government workers getting more than they would ordinarily get, because if we were going to share equally for the employees, the proposal would have meant that each individual would take home at least $1,151 extra dollars. I think that is what that worked out, if my memory serves me correct. And so it means that the people who didn't have a job for near 2 years would have gotten some money to spend, and that was just my proposal. But I had no issue whatsoever if government is in a position to pay double salaries without, having to, go to the bank to borrow. I didn't have any issues with it. So let me just let the caller know I had nothing whatsoever against government workers. But what we saw happening is that those who had were given the opportunity to get even more, and those who did not have and didn't have for like a period of 12 and 24 months, between 12 and 24 months for some people, I said that was unfair, and I was just proposing a different way of sharing the $7 million. That was all it was.
But you know, Dr. Bartlett, though, you might have intended for it to be meant that way, but you knew, you would agree that's not how it came out when you said it.
No, but that's what I said.
Walk with me.
No, that's what I said.
Walk with me. Now, what I'm saying is that we have the, that's why the caller or the person mentioned that, because the recording is there.
Well, play
right? Now, good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, good night, Bill. Talking about this double salary thing, do you know any other place in the entire world that pays double salary as often as St. Kitts and Nevis does? Hello?
No.
Okay, this has been an issue for a long time. And I know that some years, probably in excess of 10 years ago, it happened around the same time when the the ATM machine was stolen from the airport. They were concerned about people not doing their work and getting double salary. And it was discussed that they would find a way to, give a bonus or some sort of benefit for people who worked. And they worked diligently. And they earned the possibility
possibility of getting a bonus or something of that nature. Not something across the board that everybody gets, whether you stay home all day and all night and don't work for the whole year and get a double salary. It's something that we have been doing for a very, very long time, and I don't think anybody else do it in the entire world. And then we show the state that we are doing so very well. And then at the same time, as soon as we get a little chance, we have to borrow money from this, beg somebody for this, beg and beg and beg. I don't see how it is working out. It's not really right, because people deserve double pay, yes, but not people who are not going to do the work and just get a flat double salary to everybody. And if nobody else in the world is wise enough to do that, then I think probably we should be the leader of the entire world, giving everybody salary whether they work or not. It's not right. It's not right. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Caller.
It's kind of confusing to me.
Caller.
You know.
You're aware, or you would agree, that the persons who make the decisions to give the double salary have a different view to you, right?
Of course, I think they have a different view, but
right. Work with me. Mm-hmm. So you are aware that when they give the double salary, they also say that the recipients of the double salary deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
You agree with that? No, not that you agree that they deserve it, but you agree that they said that as well.
They said that, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to, yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You were saying something after what you finished.
I didn't want to continue that particular conversation, but it was a political gesture being made in the 1980s, and none of them can stop it now. It's almost like a leakage. It is given on the premise that everybody's going to spend the double salary, and then they talk about trickling down.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, Mr. Herbert. Good evening, and good evening to your panel.
Good evening.
Concerning the double salary, and for persons who are not functioning, I think it is the responsibility of those persons who have been put in charge, like supervisors, managers, etc., to make sure that those persons function in whatever they've been given to do.
Caller, in the interest of time, right? And the fact that persons have made the same point. If I were to be in charge of this panel here, this heavyweight, and we're going to give them a stipend or something, and then you said to me, Mr. Herbert, you are the supervisor, have they performed well enough to get this particular stipend? And then I say yes. Then work with me. So then the other persons now who are not their supervisor, who are on the outside looking on, decide they shouldn't get the double salary. Then who will you go along with?
I see the point you're making, right?
Yeah, but what's the answer?
Well, okay, but what about, okay, no.
Walk with me. I just want the answer, and then I'll let you go on.
Well, I think it is the responsibility.
You'll go along with me?
Yes.
Okay, so continue.
Yeah, right. Because I think they should do appraisal, right? Because as some people say, right, we might be looking at, when we look at it across the board, some people might be well in need of it. Yes, and those persons, they are pulling their weight, right? So I think it should be done on a appraisal basis. You understand?
Yeah.
So yeah, right. To make sure that because it is true. Some people, they're not functioning in their position.
Okay.
So to a point, I agree with Mr. Nair. Yeah, Mr. Nair, but do it on a appraisal basis. Let the supervisor appraise them to the board. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Well, but who is not functioning is not to get any salary.
Yeah, and who the talk? And good evening. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Oh, good night to you and your panel.
Yes. Hello. You have a half a minute.
Yeah, I would be short. I just want to add to what the caller before said. a couple years ago, I was hearing about up to now a legislation to pass about pay by performance, but that never come out the bucket yet.
Well, let me ask you this in the half a minute that's left. How they pay now?
Yeah, we are the complaining people.
No, you said that you heard they were going to start paying by performance, right?
They were supposed to legislate that.
Right. How are they paying now?
As they like.
As they like. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. I got you. Okay. You know, you remember earlier, Naya, I said that double salary thing is another story, because a lot of people play games with it as well. They say one thing then, and then when they realize they come and they, that is why I said, because sometimes there's certain things I like to deal with in depth. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, Your Honor. You have hello. You have a half a minute.
I don't think. Just let me show you security. If you the 500 contribution, you cannot get a pension, and some people got a problem with that. And some people don't get a benefit now to the social security, but when they get old, they still want something. Something like that. So I agree with some callers that pay by your performance. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bryan, I'll give you the last word, because you have been doing some writing tonight.
I've been.
And listen. That thing I told you about in the parking lot. It's not a joke, because. Yeah, go ahead. You have the last one.
On a very serious note, Webbo, it is very obvious that there are some concerns that persons are having. Some persons would have raised some issues, and they are not satisfied with the response and the turnaround time that they have received. And I think for me, that was the highlight basically of the discussion tonight. So it is something. You are absolutely correct. I certainly have taken quite a bit of notes tonight. And the idea is to try and get some resolution to these many notes that I've taken tonight.
That's the last word from the Honorable Spencer Brand. This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On Demand. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.